People say the Titanoboa went extinct thousands of years ago, but are they right? Recent sightings might just prove that the ancient monster has resurfaced. And if we're right about this, it means we're in for a lot of unwanted adventures. In 2023, a tourist to Bohol, Philippines had the pleasure of visiting Samantha. Samantha has a waistline of 38 inches. She is currently the biggest snake in the Philippines after the previous record holder Prony passed away. Samantha isn't as long as Prony was, but she is definitely thicker than Prony. The family taking care of Samantha have actually made a zoo near their house now, and have added other animals to their collection. Samantha attracts hundreds of tourists from around the world every year. African lily.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come on, whoa. Jay
is a reptilian lover living in California. Jay really cares for his pets, one of which is a female African black python called Lily. While Lily was trying to hatch her eggs last year, Jay decided to pay her a visit. Now, usually Lily isn't aggressive to Jay, but this time Jay was trying to play with her. However, Lily was not in the mood and bared her fangs at Jay, forcing him to take a step back. Do keep in mind that Jay is a trained and experienced animal expert, so don't try this at home, guys.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Come on, whoa. She sees.
Mealy Van. While returning after exploring a jungle in Portugal, a group of tourists found a terrifying sight waiting for them. A giant python had taken over their camper van and had surrounded it completely. Maybe the python thought the van was some kind of a meal and decided to hunt it down. It was trying to compress the van into a chewable morsel, but couldn't succeed. The tourists became frantic at the scene and didn't know how to react. They were probably hoping the snake would let go of their van so that they could return home. They could have escaped the jungle by foot, but who knows, they could have encountered another snake on their way too. Family python. Bohol Island, Philippines is a sanctuary to hundreds of pythons. The biggest one in captivity was 23 feet long and was named Prony. It was captured on October the 31st, 1996, yet at the time it was 5 feet long and weighed only 5 kilos. Since then, it had been in the care of one Eugenio Salabay and his family. It weighed a staggering 280 kilograms and had a waistline of 34 inches. Prony attracted hundreds of tourists every day. Osors and travel guides all over the world included Prony as part of a Philippines tour. Unfortunately, Prony passed away in 2013, and the Salabay family takes care of other pythons now.
Just Prony, my pet.
Snoozing snake. The Amazon River is a hub of anacondas, as was found by this woman on a boat. She had gone there with her family for fishing, and on a bank she spotted a dark-colored anaconda. It was perched on top of a branch overlooking the river. It was snoozing under the sunlight. The woman shrieked excitedly at this peculiar sight, regardless of the fact that this snake was huge. Netizens actually marveled at the strength of the branch that held the weight of this coily monster. The long one. While kayaking in the Khao Sok National Park in Thailand, a couple of friends found an unlikely companion on the bank. A gray-colored snake was resting on a log, clearly belonging to a species that's known to grow as long as 10 meters. And as you can see, the snake in this video was sprawled over the complete 10 meters end of the tree, and its tail was still not visible in the frame. If I didn't know any better, I'd say it might well have been the longest snake I've ever seen. Fast roller. In 2018, Jason Moolman was going for a picnic in Ballito, South Africa. Little did he know something else had already occupied his favorite spot. It was a huge python, and it was definitely something you'd expect in horror movies. It was quite fat for its length, and one would think it would move slowly, but when the python did begin moving, it moved like a roller coaster on the grass. Netizens were amazed at its speed too, and wondered what would have happened if it had decided to move towards Jason rather than away from him. Okra visitor. Now I know I said this video will be about snakes, but you've got to marvel at these children too. A Malaysian farmer and his children found an unexpected visitor to their okra farm. A massive python was frolicking there. Soon it tried to climb an okra plant, but as expected the plant fell and so did the python. And what did the children do? They just laughed at the funny scene in front of them. But was it even funny? If it had been me, I would have been evacuating the farm and the house as well. The behemoth. In 2022, a factory worker in Brazil discovered a slithering monster in his factory. There was just no end to this thick, monstrous snake. It was climbing over a fence, and when the camera followed, there was still a lot of it left before its head appeared. A modest approximation of this snake would be at least 10 meters, but its thickness was the scariest part. It was one of those rare snakes that had a uniform thickness from head to tail. When the video was uploaded online, the netizens went into a frenzy. Even if it wasn't a Titanoboa, it was just too unusually long and thick according to them. Flood python. In 2024, heavy rains brought a flood to a small town in Thailand, but the flood also brought some uninvited guests with it. A resident spotted one swimming in the shallow waters. It was a huge snake that seemed to be stuck to something. It also appeared to have just eaten a fresh meal too, given the width of its stomach. But given the way it was flailing in the water, it was one powerful snake, and not one I would love to be in the way of. Roof meal.
The possum must have been running along the guttering.
A resident in Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia heard some disturbance on his roof. When he went to check it out, it was a massive python. So he called the local snake catcher named Stuart Mackenzie. But when Stuart arrived, the snake had caught a possum for lunch. Stuart decided to let the snake have its meal and made its time-lapse video too. After the snake was done, Stuart caught it and then released it into the wild again.
Just like the bird yesterday, he's hanging.
Don't disturb. On September 22nd, 2014, Fox News reported an incredible incident. A couple of Brazilian men thought it would be funny to disturb an anaconda on the Amazon River. The snake had just finished a meal and was in no condition to defend itself. It was resting by the bank when the man in the boat grabbed its tail and tried to pull it with him. The snake managed to release itself, but the man tried again. However, the snake escaped again and for good. When the men in the boat uploaded the video on social media, they were actually fined $600 each. You can't interfere with wildlife like this in Brazil. Surprise regurgitating. In a mesmerizing yet spine-chilling moment caught on camera in 2024, a massive anaconda was seen regurgitating a smaller anaconda in a video that took the social media by storm. The larger anaconda seemed to be struggling at first, its body writhing as it expelled the smaller snake. As the smaller anaconda emerged, it appeared lifeless at first. However, in an unexpected turn of events, the smaller snake started to move, revealing that it had somehow survived the ordeal. The dramatic escape left viewers both horrified and fascinated, making this one of the most talked about animal videos in recent memory. Jungle surprise. A year ago, a group of jungle explorers in Brazil found a big surprise on the jungle floor. It was the carcass of a huge anaconda. It was fatter than any anaconda that you have ever seen. Imagine this huge monster slithering on a forest floor while alive. But netizens had something to add after the video was uploaded on social media. They pointed out how the dried up carcass was much thicker than a live anaconda. Was it the carcass of the elusive Titanoboa? Does make sense if it has been hiding all this time. 50 feet. 5 years ago, a traveler in Brazil captured an amazing moment by accident. It was a 50-foot anaconda, but when he uploaded the video on social media, the netizens had split opinions about the huge snake. Some called it a hoax, but there was nothing in the video to point it out as a setup. Others said it was a camera trick, but another netizen pointed out that the width of the river was 50 feet, and the snake was covering the whole width of the river. Means it was in fact a 50-foot anaconda. Ceiling pythons. One year ago, a stomach-churning video surfaced on social media. It so happened that the residents heard weird noises coming from the ceiling, and then one of them spotted an ominous-looking tail. So when they nudged the ceiling with a stick, it came crashing down, and 3 pythons appeared along with it too. It was mating season, and they had found the coziest of places for the act, which the residents knew before disturbing them. Giant gulper. Brazil is home to monstrous snakes. In 2019, a documentary filmmaker shared clips of a gigantic snake he found in a swamp. It was resting after having a hearty meal. With its tail coiled and unusual color, it was a terrifying sight to watch. When the video was uploaded online, netizens remarked at the size of the prey that it was in its belly. It looked like a full-grown cow, according to them, and the filmmaker was lucky the anaconda already had its lunch. Or else, by the looks of it, the anaconda would have swallowed his camera too. Roadside anaconda. While working on a dam site in Brazil, construction workers spotted an anaconda on a roadside. Other drivers had stopped their vehicles and were afraid to cross the monstrous creature too. At first, they thought it was sleeping under the sunlight, but when an expert was called on the site, he confirmed that the snake had actually passed away. They needed to remove the snake now, but it was so heavy they needed a crane to pull the snake on the bed of a truck. Angry farmer. A farmer in India woke up to an alarming situation one fine morning. One of his cows was missing. When he searched for it, he found it in the coils of a python. The python took its time to feast on the cow, but the farmer wouldn't have any of it. It becomes difficult for a python to move once it eats such a big meal. So the farmer dragged it back to his shed and tethered it at the same spot where the cow should have been. That should probably teach it a lesson. But netizens called it animal cruelty, as there was no way the python could have known that the cow was owned by a poor farmer last meal. Last meal. This python learned the hard way that not every feast is edible. A few friends were boating in a lake in Malaysia. After a while, they spotted a weird yellow-colored object floating in the water. When they went closer, they realized it was a python. Unfortunately, it had passed away. When they pulled the snake to the shore, they found something astonishing. The snake had gulped down a porcupine, whose quills were sticking out of the python's stomach, and that is what resulted in the python parting with its soul. Welcome back. 16 years ago, when a factory worker in Malaysia returned from lunch. This isn't what he was expecting to welcome him back. A huge python was lying in front of the storehouse, and the way it was so still, it was probably lying in wait for a prey. The worker decided to videotape it out, and as he moved from tail to head while recording it, the monster snake just kept on getting thicker. It looked like there was no end to the snake, but finally the head did appear. And boy, was it a monster of a snake. Brave catcher. In 2022, a resident in Indonesia detected a bulge in the ceiling of his storeroom, so he called an expert snake catcher. When the worker removed part of the ceiling, it revealed part of an ominous-looking python. When it realized it had been found, the snake tried to move away, but the catcher was quicker and tugged at its tail, and down came the snake along with the ceiling. The snake was quite dexterous and did its best to evade the catcher. However, the catcher managed to trap it in the end. When netizens saw the video, they marveled at the bravery of the expert, and true enough, he did save at least one life on that day. Uninvited guest. Now here is a fascinating story. In 2018, an Australian resident by the name of Robbie Nill discovered a python hiding in the rafters of his garage. Robbie captured the snake and released it into the bushes behind his house. The next day, the snake returned and entered the garage again. Robbie thought the snake liked his garage and let him stay there. He even named it Dirk, and Dirk has been growing ever since. The last time they measured him, he was 9 feet long. When Dirk gets cold, he climbs up to the roof to catch some sunlight, and here you can see him doing just that. Road parked. 2 years ago, a man was driving on a small highway in Indonesia. From a distance, he saw a car parked in the middle of the road. He thought that the car had probably broken down, but when he reached the car, he realized why it wasn't moving. A yellow-colored spotted python was blocking its way. For unknown reasons, that python had decided to take rest on the road, and it didn't look like it wanted to vacate the spot. So the drivers decided the best course of action was to turn around and move away from the snake. Impossible crocodile. While riding a boar in a river in southern Florida, a wildlife explorer caught something by mistake while recording the scenery. Initially, he thought it was a huge snake and uploaded the video on social media. However, there he was told that it wasn't a snake, it was a crocodile. But here's the clincher. It was a 30-foot crocodile, and the longest crocodile ever recorded was 20 feet. So if an impossibly long crocodile exists in the world, it stands to reason that an impossibly long Titanoboa should exist too. Golf course invader. In a surprising turn of events, a cobra decided to invade a golf course in South Africa in 2024. The cobra seemed frantic and unhappy about something. It was highly energetic too, the way it twisted and turned its tail a dozen times in a second. Looks like it lost in a fight with the mongoose in the background, and wanted to take out its anger on the golfers. But the golfers understood its sinister intentions pretty well, and decided to cancel for the rest of the day. Wildlife python. In 2016, a few factory workers in Malaysia caught a 150-kilogram python. It was a unique colored python and considered extremely precious among leather poachers. That is why there were a lot of lucrative offers to buy the snake. However, the workers rejected all offers for buying the snake out. The python was open for visitations by the general public, and visitors were told to visit at specific hours. However, later on, the workers handed over the snake to wildlife authorities. Roof Titan. In 2017, a resident of Samara, Russia caught a mind-boggling sight. He was walking in the streets when he saw a huge shape slithering on the rooftops. He could only see part of its body, but its movement was ominous and sinister. Having no clue about its identity, he uploaded the video on social media for answers, and the information that he received shook him to the core. Netizens told him it was a Titanoboa. However, they had no clue what it was doing on the rooftop, but its form, shape, and movement pointed to nothing else except that it was the dreaded ancient monster. Some users were skeptical, but the video didn't seem doctored in any way. Became a meal. 2 years ago, a python in Thailand had a hearty big meal. Unfortunately, pythons become sluggish after eating a large animal and easy to capture, and that is exactly what happened to this one. Unfortunately for it, a group of friends from a nearby village were hunting for a python on that day too, and found it. They seemed very happy capturing this yellow spotted python, and even took pictures in celebration. If you didn't know, Thai people do eat pythons. Some people there even farm it for selling in markets, but this group got one right from the bosom of nature. Aged anaconda. 3 years ago, a documentary producer found exactly what he was looking for. An elderly female anaconda. She had just taken her meal. And it was a big one too, by the looks of it too. She then dragged herself to the water in order to support her weight in the water. And it becomes easier to breathe too. Now she doesn't have to worry about eating for the next couple of months. It is because anacondas take weeks to digest their prey and eat only a few times in a year. Pretty fascinating creatures, I must say. Smiling Titan. You will get a heart attack if you ever cross this monster in real life. A resident in Florida uploaded this video on social media 3 years ago. He recorded a huge Titanoboa in a wilderness as he was passing by it. For some reason, the snake seemed uninterested in the passing resident and seemed to have a sinister smile on its face too. However, the riddle was solved by a netizen. This is actually a robot replica of a Titanoboa, and it had been installed in a Florida zoo for exhibition. Porcupine troubles. An African rock python in Lake Eland Game Reserve in South Africa found out the hard way that a porcupine might be its worst meal ever. People visiting the reserve 2 years ago found a motionless python there. They reported the matter to the rangers, who confirmed that the animal had passed away. However, in order to find what caused the incident, the rangers performed a procedure and found a porcupine in the python's belly. The rangers said that the python probably tried to regurgitate the swallowed up animal, and its quills did the rest. Molting snake. When a snake sheds its skin, that too is an incredible sight. The process is called molting, and in 2017, a filmmaker captured it vividly in a South American desert. It was the western diamondback rattlesnake. It removes its old skin by rubbing against rough rocks. As even the skin on the eyes gets peeled, the snake feels very vulnerable at this moment, but observe the elegance with which the snake removes its old skin. Finally, when the last piece of the old skin is removed, the snake looks just like brand new and slithers into the distance. Missing dog. In 2021, a resident in Kerala, India stopped hearing his dog's voice in the house. The dog had gone missing. When he went out to search for it, he couldn't find it in the streets. So he went into the jungle behind his village and found it there. But it was already inside the belly of a python. The most surprising part was that it wasn't that big of a python either, but it still had swallowed a meal much larger than its own size. World record. And here we have her guys, Medusa. She currently holds the record for the longest living snake held in captivity. She's a staggering 25.5 feet long, and it takes about 15 people to hold her. Medusa works in a circus and is completely cooperative with the workers. She lives in the Edge of Hell haunted house in Kansas City and lays still during the performance of the circus. She really knows how to do her job well. Juliet on roof.
Girl, this calls dope breed.
On April 19th, 2022, a Michigan neighborhood got a slithery surprise. Neighbors called the owner of a house, informing her that an 18-foot python was creeping across her rooftop. Spectators from all over the neighborhood gathered on the street to watch it. Soon the police joined the gathering too, along with their dogs. However, the python, whose name was later revealed to be Juliet, was unperturbed by her audience and kept moving right and left across the rooftop. But 10 minutes later, Juliet's owner, Devin Jones White, arrived to retrieve his snake. Devin had been called by a neighbor and he rushed from work to get his snake back. Looks like Devin didn't take Juliet out for walks.
I don't know. All right. Girl, you...
Chance discovery. A group of Australian scientists were on a research tour in the Amazon. They were studying the effects of oil spills on anacondas, but fate had other plans for them, and by accident they found a new species of anacondas. What was more astonishing was the fact that these new anacondas were 5% genetically different from other anacondas. For comparison, human beings are only 1% genetically different from chimpanzees. So not only did they find something they weren't looking for, they could very well have discovered an extinct species of giant snake on the Amazon floor. Gymnastic python.
You want
Oh my god.
Hope he goes into the neighbour.
A year ago, a family in Australia witnessed a bizarre sight. A 5-meter-long python was frolicking on their roof, and then it decided to climb onto the nearest tree, but it didn't stop there. It kept slithering over the line of trees in front of it. The family was amazed. The mother was laughing. The kids were shrieking. When they uploaded the video online, netizens joked that the snake was doing gymnastics on the trees. Whatever the case may be, it was one agile python.
Be brave!
Oh, listen to Gary.
Mysterious swimmer. In 2023, a man in Thailand went to a reserve park for a picnic. Little did he know, something else was at the picnic before him. While he was gazing at a lake, he heard a disturbance in the water near him. Suddenly, an eerie-looking hump of a creature appeared in the water, and it began to swim away. It was a snake, no doubt about it, and given its condition, it definitely had a picnic a little while ago. And for now, it was swimming away to find a cozy spot to rest and digest its meal for the rest of the week. Florida python. In 2023, a few hunters caught a python in a South Florida conservatory. It wasn't an ordinary python, it was 19 feet long. The explorers brought the python back to their laboratory to take measurements. Once they announced the existence of the animal, the local news channel ran a story on it as well. Pythons are mostly found in Southeast Asia and Australia, so the discovery of such a long python in Florida was surprising. Unfortunately, the python passed away soon after because of stress. King cobra. In 2022, a jungle explorer in South Africa captured an awe-inspiring sight. It was a king cobra, and it is definitely the longest and the tallest one you have ever seen. It had raised its head above the ground like a majestic king. It was probably surveying its kingdom, or maybe it had caught sight of a prey. When the video was shared online, the internet went ballistic. No one had ever seen such a huge king cobra before. A modest estimation put the snake at 3 meters long. Chicken hunter. A man in South Africa began missing chicken on a regular basis, so he decided to investigate and observed a python feasting on his chicken. He called a snake catcher for assistance, and they chased the python to the woods behind the guy's house. Here you got to admire the bravery of the snake catcher. He kept persisting regardless of the python's tactics, and finally managed to capture it. When they measured it, it was 3.8 meters long, but the man's chicken slept peacefully after that. Open discussion. In 1959, Colonel Remy van Leerde, a Belgian helicopter pilot, captured this image while conducting a patrol over the Congo. He transferred the photographs to a zoologist and wildlife photographer. Ray confirmed that the snake was indeed a giant one, taking into account the given height of the helicopter, which was estimated at 45 to 50 meters, and the angle of the camera. Turcaffs concluded that the snake must have been 12 to 14 meters in length, with a diameter of 16 to 18 inches. If alive, this snake would have broken all records of the longest snake in existence. Thank you very much for watching the video. Share in the comments and do like the video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again,